Oswald Chambers was right when he said, if we are ever going to be made into wine, we will have to be crushed because you cannot drink grapes. And God knows that's the truth. You've got to be crushed. You know, the grape has to become crushed or squeezed in order to get the wine out of it. And so you need to get that, because there's something that God wants to get out of your life that's so good and so powerful and so enamoring to some folk, but God can't get it out of you until you've first been hurt. You've got to be wounded. You've got to be crushed. You've got to be bruised in order for the goodness that's in you to come out. I need you to know that there is a clear pattern in the Bible that teaches us very, very simply about this principle of brokenness that precedes greatness. You see, some folks have aspiration to be great. That's good, but you don't realize what you're asking for, because there's a whole lot of pain that comes with being great. Just like some will say, I want God to anoint me. I want to be anointed. That's good. You should want that. But I've got to tell you, there's a whole lot of pain and heartache that comes with being great or being anointed. You're going to have to go through some lonely days and lonely nights. You're going to have to be betrayed. You're going to have to experience being lied on. You're going to have to experience the person that you thought would love you no matter what turning their back on you. You're going to have to understand, just like Jesus did when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, what it's like to be betrayed by your friend, and most of all, to be betrayed with a kiss. Oh, I wish I had somebody here that understood what I was saying, but I'm going to keep on going. Is that all right? I need you to understand that in the Bible, you'll see that before Abraham could become the father of many nations, he and Sarah had to be childless. They had to be barren. And during that time, barrenness was a calamity. It was something that you were laughed at and ridiculed about. But they had to be there first before he could become the father of nations. Before Jacob could be blessed, he had to be wounded in the thigh by an angel in a wrestling match. And sometimes that's when you get wounded, while you are wrestling. When you're wrestling with a problem, you're wrestling with the devil, sometimes even wrestling with the angel of the Lord, you wind up being bruised or wounded just in the wrestling. Before Joseph could be the ruler over Egypt, he was thrown to a pit, sold into slavery, and falsely imprisoned. Before Job's estate could be doubled, he had to lose everything he had, including his family, his fortune, and his future. Before Moses could become the great deliverer, he had to lose his position, lose his possessions, and lose his popularity. I wonder, what is it going to cost you in order for you to become great? Before Joshua conquered the promised land, he had to first go through a land of wilderness. Before Samson crushed the Philistines, he had to be blinded, binded, and grinded. Before David became king, he was renounced by his family, ridiculed by his foes, and rejected by his friends. Before Daniel could be used mightily, he had to spend the night in a lion's den. Before Hosea became a powerful spokesman for God, his wife had to betray him and return to prostitution. Before Peter was able to preach and add 3,000 souls to the church in one day, he had to deny Jesus 3 times and afterwards go out and wept bitterly in the night. Before Paul brought the gospel to the Gentiles, he had to be blinded while on the Damascus road. Oh, I wonder this morning, what is it going to take for you to be used by God? And some of you right now don't even realize, but the shape you're in is because God has a plan for using you. And when God wants to use you, there's something that's got to be removed from your life. Sometimes there's a person that's got to be removed. Sometimes it's things that's got to be removed. You're going to have to be cut before you can ever be healed. You've got to be wounded. Tap your neighbor and say, I've got to be wounded. Now, I need you to know that when God gets us alone, through our suffering, through our heartbreak, through the temptation, disappointment, and sickness that we experience, when God gets us alone by having our desires dashed, when God gets us alone because of a broken friendship or a new friendship, when God gets us absolutely alone and we are totally speechless, unable to ask even one question from God, it is then that he began to teach us. Sometimes God can't talk to you until he gets you alone. God has got to remove you from the hustle and bustle of your day. God has got to remove you from your aspirations, dreams, and desires. Sometimes God has got to take you and place you in the middle of no man's land before you have an encounter with him and him alone. Oh, I need you to know that sometimes God sees that our life is nothing but a mess. Some of us are in the middle of a mess right now. You may look like you're happy, but you're in the middle of a mess. You dress like you're happy, but you're in the middle of a mess. You talk like you're happy, but you're in the middle of a mess. And God has to break us. God breaks us in order that he can remake us again. He may have to break your home. He may have to break your job. He may have to break you in the church. He may have to break you in your neighborhood. But whatever it takes, God is going to break you just to remake you again. Jeremiah chapter 18 verse 4. Jeremiah said, and the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made it again another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. Oh, I don't know about you, but sometimes it seems like that is what's happening in my life. Sometimes I may not like the way my life is turning. And sometimes you don't like the way the pages of your life is turning.